In this video, you are going to learn how to play the middle game and what is a middle game. Basically, by the end of the video, you are going to have a complete idea about the middle game. I've broken down this video into 5 parts: strategy, tactics, when does the middle game begin, when does it end, and finally conclusion. So if you're really looking forward to improve your middle game, this is the best video you have come for. So I don't want to waste any further time, so let's begin. So jumping onto the strategy, which is strategy, yeah. So there are many factors under this strategy which helps us to make a strategy. I think there are basically 5 factors, which is material count first of all. So what is material count? Let me take you through the position. We have this particular position on our board. So talking about a material count, so try to count the material. That's it. White is having 7 pawns, black is having 7 pawns, black is having 2 rooks, white is having 2 rooks, 1 king, 1 queen, 2 knights, 2 bishops. Material wise, the position is even. Secondly, talking about piece activity. So this is one of the most critical part, which is piece activity. We kind of compared the material versus material. Basically, we try to compare the queen versus queen, doing nothing. Rooks versus rook, still doing nothing. King versus king, doing nothing. Knight versus knight, doing nothing. The main thing I can look in this position are the bishops. I can compare the bishop. You see, the light square bishop is pretty happy compared to the black's light square bishop, which is doing nothing, just passively placed. Second, which is the dark square bishop. White's dark square bishop is still quite happy, doing an active job. Black's dark square bishop is kind of stuck in. So I think white is having better piece activity compared to the black's pieces. So now this is exactly what happens under the piece activity. We basically compare the pieces. Third, pawn structure. We try to look at the pawn structure and try to assess it. So white pawn structure is looking quite good, like no particular weaknesses. You see, every pawn is kind of connected. There are no weak squares. But if I talk about black's pawn structure, on the queen side, black's pawn structure is extremely fine. But if I talk about the king side, the pawn structure over here is quite weak. The pawns are a bit overextended, which makes the black king extremely weak. If the pawn would have been on g7, I would have said, okay, black is also having a perfectly fine pawn structure. But because of the pawn being on g5, white can already push his knight, push the pawn, and try to use these weak pawns as a target. So this is how you evaluate the pawn structure, which helps us to evaluate the position. Now coming to the fourth factor, which is space. So what happens in space? We basically get an idea. So on the queen side, both the sides are having equal space. In the center, white's having more space in the center because black is not having the key pawn, which is the d pawn. Black is only having the 1 pawn, so white can already push in the center via e4 and grab more space. On the king side, black is having more space. White is having less space, so which gives black enough counterplay to play on the king side, maybe. Yeah, so this is how we compare spaces as well. So coming to the 5th factor, which is king safety, finally, which is one of the most crucial factor. So you see, white king is extremely happy, well protected by the pawns and the pieces, whereas black king is not really so happy because the pawns are a bit overextended. So if I try to play something like knight e5 with the idea of f4 trying to break on the king side, it can be already a big trouble for black. So you see, black king is already not very happy compared to the white king. So by basically using these all factors, we can try to evaluate the position. As you can see, the position is already plus 0.9, which gives white a good advantage. And by using these factors, we can evaluate the position and try to form an idea, form a plan. So you see, black king is weak. I can play something like knight g5 f4, trying to capture this pawn and try to use this weak king. Maybe I can even play something like e4 d5, trying to use my advantage in the center of the board. And yeah, this is how I can use my strategy to play the position. So this is how you play the middle game, by using strategy. Now let's talk about tactics. Okay, so now talking about tactics, now basically we are going to discuss some of the basic tactics that needs to be discussed, which are pins, skewer, fork, and discoveries. So first of all, talking about pin, what is a pin? So basically, this is a pin. Okay, let me explain it to you in a bit further way. So basically, you see, this pawn cannot move, because if this pawn moves, I can capture the king, which is kind of not legal, but yeah. So basically, black is having more valuable piece back, but in the front, there is less valuable piece. So basically, the less valuable piece cannot move because the more valuable piece will simply get captured. So this is known as simply the pin. Now, if I talk about what is a skewer, so this is a skewer. So basically, when a more valuable piece is in front and less valuable piece is in back, though the queen is still valuable, because if I try to move the king, black can simply capture the queen, which is black is pretty happy. So yeah, this is basically known as skewer when the more valuable piece is in the front and less valuable piece is in the back. So now let's talk about what is the fork. So fork is this. Sorry about that. So this is the fork. When the knight attacks 2 pieces, this is a fork. Maybe the knight can even attack 3 or maybe 4 or maybe 5, 6, 7, 8. Who knows? So basically, when the knight attacks 2 pieces, that is known as a fork. Coming to the fourth, which is discovery. What is a discovery? So you see the rook aiming at the same file as the bishop. So you see, if I try to move my knight, I can actually capture the bishop. So maybe I can play something like, for example, let me just take a move like this maybe. So yeah, okay, maybe like, okay, let's capture the queen. So you see, I can actually play something like knight check. What is happening? I'm giving a check. So black is like, okay, let me take it. But you see, with the idea of sacrifice, the idea of discovery, now the knight is no longer in between, so I can actually go for capturing the bishop. So you see, let me take it back. So you see, imagine the bishop as a queen. I can move my knight and I can actually attack the queen. This is known as a discovery. I basically move my piece in the between and then I simply attack the piece. That is known as a discovery. So these are some basic fundamentals kind of tactics that every player must know, and these are the tactics that often occurs in every chess player's game. So you need to be careful about it. So this is how we play tactics. So now let's try to discuss when does the middle game begin. Okay, so we have, let me take you through the game. We have e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, both the pieces playing normal chess, developing the pieces. And after bishop g4, we can say from here the middle game begins. Basically, the middle game begins the moment when you develop all your pieces. You see, I have developed my pieces, the knights and the bishops. Like the knights and the bishops are known as minor pieces. So the moment I develop my minor pieces, I can say that the middle game has started and the opening has finished already. I have even castled up. So you see, the moment you develop your minor pieces and castle up, the middle game has begun. That is the start of the middle game. Basically, you develop your pieces and then it is the start of the middle game. So now let me take you through when does the middle game end. So now discussing about when does the middle game end, let me once again take you through the game. We have already a queen trade and we have bishop b5. So basically there is no proper definition about when does the middle game end. It depends chess player to chess player, person to person. So at least in my opinion, I believe the moment I trade off the queen, the middle game has been ended. Many of the players think maybe when we trade off the queen and we also trade maybe 2 minor pieces, then we can say the middle game has been ended. So you see, there is no proper definite definition of when does the middle game end and when does the end game begin. It depends person to person. Everybody has a different perspective of looking when does the middle game end. So yeah, that's it. I believe that when the queens are traded, because the queens are considered the most powerful piece, so whenever we trade off the queen, I believe the end game has begun, kind of, or you can say the mid game has begun maybe. So yeah, this is exactly, you guys basically get an idea when does the middle game end. And now finally coming to the conclusion, you guys have got an idea how to play the middle game by using strategy and tactics. When does the middle game start? When does it end? Okay, so I hope that this video was helpful. So if this video was helpful, so make sure to like, share and subscribe, because if you guys have no idea about the middle game, I believe that this video was helpful. So yeah, if you want any particular video on any particular topic now, let me tell in the comments below. I'm going to come up with that particular video. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'm going to come up with these more exciting videos like this. So till then, stay tuned and keep watching One Shot Chess. Bye bye.